How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another round of Luke's Speedy Reviews, a series on my channel where I take a selection of films that I haven't had the chance to dedicate a full review for, and will give you my short, sharp, and hopefully sweet reviews for them. Now, it wasn't that long ago that I did one of these, however, you might be hard-pushed to actually find it on my channel, because it has since been taken down due to a copyright claim. It turns out that whilst there are lots and lots of fans of the movie R, which is currently available on Netflix in the UK, the production companies, and I think T-Series maybe, I could be wrong, aren't particularly fond of any footage of that film being shown on anywhere, even if you do claim that it's not yours. I tried fighting the copyright, but it didn't end up with any good results, so the video is no longer available. I even tried editing around it, but still there was nothing I could do, and I didn't want to risk any potential copyright strikes against my channel. However, I have another selection of 10 films that I've watched over the past few months that I wanted to share my thoughts of. Some of those include the likes of The Black Phone, Orphan First Kill, Marvel Studios' Werewolf by Night, and what the was the last one? Oh, yeah, and Smile.
We're on the list of rescue divers.
It's just a tourist cove.
It looks easy, but when it's flooded, it's impassable.
Ron Howard has dropped a new film over on Amazon Prime Video detailing the amazing rescue of 12 boys and their football coaches from a cave in Thailand back in 2018. This true-life tale is astonishing, and I do believe is one of the most amazing human triumphs and displays of courage and determination in recent human history, which leaves me really quite stunned that this dramatisation of their efforts felt remarkably, and I hate to say it, boring. The first hour of 13 Lives is an absolute slog to wade through. I was hoping for more time spent on the boys surviving all that time with no resources, as opposed to sitting in boardroom meetings discussing various rescue plans. Now, I understand Howard was more focused on detailing the complexity of the rescue itself rather than any semblance of characterization, but for a 2.5-hour film, it desperately needed more of a presence to kick things off. Now, once the rescue is underway, it is well directed by Howard to show off the scope of their effort and features some claustrophobic moments. But all the while, I'm sat there thinking this would have been so much better as a documentary, which then I later found out there was one released earlier in the year which has received rave reviews. So if you're after a more authentic look at this rescue and won't be grinding its teeth for an hour to begin with, then I'd suggest watching The Rescue instead. I'm going to give 13 Lives a 5 out of 10.
Tell me your name.
Taylor.
I was really starting to like you, Finny. I almost let you go.
Scott Derrickson, director of Doctor Strange and horror hits such as Sinister and The Exorcism of Emily Rose, goes back to his horror roots with The Black Phone. Situated in a small suburban American town, the local area is being targeted by a string of kidnappings, with the perpetrator gaining the nickname The Grabber. When young Finney finds himself the next abductee, he begins to receive supernatural advice to escape and survive from past victims via the mysterious Black Phone. I'm happy to report that The Black Phone is a really effective and easily enjoyable horror thriller. By no means does the film in any way redefine the genre or suddenly emerge as a future classic, but in terms of spending an hour and a half with more than enough thrills, chills, and some well-earned jump scares, then Black Phone ticks a fair few boxes. The supernatural element doesn't work as well as I would have liked, often feeling like a bizarre add-on that the story struggles to both justify and use as a get-out-of-jail-free card to provide exposition. That being said, the performances are all solid. Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw give very committed and impassioned performances, whilst Ethan Hawke turns up the crazy factor to 11 for this role. The only downside with the Grabber is that there really isn't much to him. He's a very surface level, underdeveloped horror villain. Therefore, I'm going to give The Black Phone a 6.5 out of 10.
Sorry about the game, but we're gonna have fun tonight.
Let me guess, another IT conference?
I'm gonna be back in a couple days, tops.
Hey, Mom. Dad has a work emergency, so can you come pick me up?
I love it when you call me Mom. Let's throw a rager.
What's happening?
Do you want more Iron Man but can't because Tony Stark is dead? Well, never mind, because Owen Wilson and Paramount Plus are here with their own definitely not Iron Man ripoff. And I do feel for Paramount Plus because that streaming site, I mean, they're trying. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be mean because Secret Headquarters is actually pretty good. Wilson plays the Guard, a man gifted powers by an alien race to protect the planet, but the biggest struggle he's facing is his failing relationship with his son, played by the mini Ryan Reynolds Walker Scobell. To best understand Secret Headquarters, just imagine Spy Kids meets Iron Man. Walker Scobell is still churning out scene-stealing performances following on from the Adam Project with such a commanding screen presence. The other kids are really good too, all leaning into this comedy confidently. What isn't so strong is some of the dialogue. A lot of it is what you'd expect from a film such as this, and a lot of it is even worse, with some truly cheesy and piss-poor lines that leave you stunned that someone was actually paid to write that. But the action is solid, and it's nice to see a family superhero comedy not pander to the children. I mean, it's far from perfect, but it is certainly fun for all ages. I'm going to give Secret Headquarters a 6.5 out of 10.
It's going to be a hot one in Los Angeles.
So what's on the agenda today?
Close your eyes, my son.
My eyes are closed.
Like every day.
What are you doing in my room?
Hunting vampires.
As a film fan, there's nothing worse than watching a movie that has no idea what it wants to be, or gets a hold of completely the wrong end of the stick and tries to be something it's not. In the case of Day Shift, this could have very easily fallen apart. The premise of vampire hunters having their own bureau and roaming around the streets of LA catching and killing these bloodsuckers is more than a little goofy. Oh, and to top it all off, we get a glorious sequence of Snoop Dogg, who hilariously puts like zero effort into his performance here, mowing down herds of vampires with a Gatling gun. But thankfully, it's good that the team behind Day Shift knew how silly this whole premise actually was. Jamie Foxx does his usual Jamie Foxx cool guy who can kick your ass and crack some jokes while doing it shtick, and for the most part it works. Dave Franco also does a good job as the snivelling office worker who is forced to join Fox's hunter in the field. But the action is the true standout. The fight choreography is genuinely fantastic. There are lots of set pieces chock-a-block with kinetic camera work, great stunt coordination, and most importantly of all, inventive and gory kills. That being said, I'm hesitant to say that anything in this film beyond the action is actually good. The screenplay can ebb and flow between just about passable and downright terrible, and the story itself follows the most bare-bones structure a film such as this can. Now, you won't waste your time watching this, but you could just as easily find the cool action scenes when they undoubtedly get posted on YouTube or TikTok. I'm going to give Day Shift a 5.5 out of 10.
What is he doing here?
We found your daughter. She's alive.
Be prepared for changes. We have a child therapist that she'll be working with.
4 years is a long time. What she needs right now is our family.
Esther? Sweetheart, it's Mommy.
Way back in 2009, a small horror film called Orphan hit cinemas. The premise was that of a little girl being adopted by a family, but it turns out she's a complete psycho. However, the big twist that has since made Orphan a bit of a cult classic was that young Isabel Fuhrman was actually playing a deranged 30-year-old woman with a deformity making her appear like a child, successfully able to infiltrate homes and wreak havoc. Jump forward 13 years and there's now a prequel, Orphan First Kill, as Esther, or Lena being her real name, seeks to infiltrate another family before the events of the first film. To be honest, considering that Isabelle Fuhrman is a grown woman now and not a child, the CGI, makeup, overall direction, and Fuhrman do a decent job at keeping the illusion going, even if it does break every single rule of believability. As for the story this time round, well, the film almost plays out in 3 stages. The first was a neat asylum survival thriller, the second trod down the exact same road as the first as she cons this grieving family, but the third act is when the film truly comes alive. It goes full on bananas, pulling out some twists I honestly did not see coming, and as ridiculous and as stupid as the movie gets here, I can't lie and say it wasn't enjoyable. It's far less serious and intense as the first, but through sheer entertainment value, this prequel might pivot to the post. Also, I've got to give credit to director William Brentfell, not just for upping his game as a filmmaker compared to his past endeavours, but actually including a really cool nod to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. I'm going to give Orphan First Kill a 6 out of 10.
Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might have the wish I wish tonight.
When you wish upon a star.
Disney appear to be pumping out these so-called live-action remakes almost as quick as they're releasing new Marvel content. But nonetheless, it is seemingly the turn of Pinocchio to get this treatment. Bob Zemeckis is in charge of this one, who has always been a fantastic filmmaker, but just not in the past few years. And unfortunately, his string of disappointment continues with Pinocchio. The original animated classic from 1940 was a huge step in animation, and even today, despite some questionable life choices from the lead character, and the fact that Disney cast a Nazi sympathizer to voice Geppetto, no, he really did, the classic still holds up. Which begs the question, why remake it? Anyway, whether we like it or not, it's here, and yeah, it's not great. This 2022 Pinocchio rides on the coattails of the whimsy of the first film, doing very little of its own work to make it stand out. It's fundamentally creatively uninspired. Whilst you can flash some dazzling visuals on screen, you can't avoid the fact that this is basically the equivalent of copying someone's test answers, but just using a fancier pen. Tom Hanks is fine as Geppetto, but doesn't bring anything to him besides more of a tragic backstory. Joseph Gordon-Levitt made for an entertaining Jiminy Cricket. Cynthia Erivo literally shows up for one scene as the Blue Fairy, but I will hand it to him, Benjamin Evan Ainsworth made for a pretty good Pinocchio. He gave quite a lot of character through only his voice, and it's just that the film he's in as a whole is totally and utterly pointless. Therefore, I'm going to give Pinocchio a 4.5 out of 10.
Another long night of crime and violence.
Some say it's only a matter of time before the city implodes.
I think we're finished here. Go on, beat it.
Sylvester Stallone is taking on the superhero genre with a brand new release over on Amazon Prime. Now the plot is really rather simple. You've got a poor, underprivileged kid, played by Javon Walton, but who has a good heart, and he's obsessed with this former superpowered vigilante known as Samaritan, who has since believed to have died fighting his arch nemesis, Nemesis. They really are quite the creative bunch. But when this kid is targeted by a local gang, a rundown garbage man comes to his aid possessing ridiculous strengths and powers, seemingly signifying Samaritan's return. Forgettable is what springs to mind when I think of Samaritan. Its story is very jumbled and scattered, and yet at the same time, within 10 minutes of watching the film, I could have written a fairly detailed outline of where I was expecting the plot to go, and I would have at least got 75% right. Sylvester Stallone spends most of his screen time slumping around, grumbling and punching the occasional person in the face. Meanwhile, Walton isn't terrible, but he lacks the screen presence to carry a movie. Perhaps if this were a 1997 release, Samaritan might have fit in better, but in 2022, this simply just doesn't cut the mustard. So I'm going to give Samaritan a 3.5 out of 10.
I love you.
I love you, dude.
Sonny, you have no life outside of your kids.
Well, my wife is an architect. We made a decision that's best for me to take care of the kids. It's called a system which works.
Yeah, prison system. That's what it sounds like.
What's up, Huck?
Sonny, baby! My birthday's coming up. You haven't been to one of my parties forever.
You guys were so close, and then I grew up. I don't want to spend a weekend with Huck and a bunch of 22-year-olds.
Did Kevin Hart sell his soul to Netflix or something? What happened to this guy? With maybe a couple exceptions here or there, he's gone from starring in mediocre theatrically released comedies to genuinely awful comedies released on streaming platforms. Consider Me Time in the latter description. Hart plays the kind of guy he always plays. A dude in some sort of awkward relationship who gets paired up with another Hollywood A-lister who then gets Hart into a predicament that causes their relationship to be strained. But giving those other films that Hart's been in with identical plots some credit, at least there's always been some sort of USP. Take The Man from Toronto, for instance. It's a terrible movie, but at least you have the espionage angle on it. Me Time has no angle. It's simply lowest common denominator jokes geared towards either the absolutely brainless or those that have no understanding of the concept of comedy. And those jokes are wrapped around one of the sorriest excuses for a story I have seen in some time, as Mark Wahlberg emerges as Hart's longtime best friend, who takes him away on an adventure-fueled getaway, only for other hijinks and stupid stuff to happen along the way, none of which coalesces together to form even an ounce of what can be considered a plot. The humour itself struggles to make a choice on the audience it's geared for. It has all the sensibilities of a PG-13 comedy, but the vulgar, immature mouth of an R-rated film. I will give the film one sole pass, and that is for one joke that got a good deserved laugh out of me regarding a coffee shop. That's it. There should be no time for Me Time. I'm going to give Me Time a 2 out of 10.
Tonight, it is every hunter for themselves.
Good luck. I'll be rotting for you.
But one of you is a monster, masquerading as one of our own. I can't wait to find out what breed of evil you are.
Who'd have thunk it? Even more Marvel content to talk about. However, this time round, it's all a little bit different to what we're used to. Werewolf by Night is based on a series of lesser-known comics about, well, a werewolf. In this instance, composer extraordinaire turned director Michael Giacchino is not tied down to worrying about canon or any of the machinations of the multiverse saga. Werewolf by Night stands far removed from any of the interconnecting narrative going on in the MCU, and instead operates as 50 minutes of simplistic entertainment. This special presentation, as Marvel are referring to it, is certainly a fun little escapade that can be enjoyed by any Marvel fan, no matter if you're all caught up on every single film and episode, or if there are larger gaps in your watch list. Giacchino is having lots of fun in the director's seat, and it's very refreshing to see the MCU gallivanting around, experimenting with new approaches rather than adhering to the same formula. Giacchino also totally knocks it out of the park for the score, which is of course to be expected. Gael Garcia Bernal is pretty good, but it's Laura Donnelly as Elsa Bloodstone who emerges as the character I want to see more of in the future. The violence is gnarly too. Look, it's not game changing, but it's fun, and I'm always on board for some fun. I'm going to give Werewolf by Night a 7.5 out of 10.
Hi, patient. Hi. I know you're nervous. I just want to have a chat.
I'm seeing something no one else can see except for me. It's smiling at me. Oh my God!
And so, with Halloween just past us, let's stick with the horror theme, as Paramount have gifted us a new horror set to slap a smile on our face, whether we like it or not. Directed by first-time feature filmmaker Parker Finn, Smile centers on a psychiatric doctor who, when a patient brutally kills herself in front of her, is soon haunted by an entity that infects her mind, twisting her reality, leading to her own potential demise. Admittedly, I had next to no confidence about Smile. The last horror film we had featuring creepy smiles was Blumhouse's Truth or Dare, which was about as bad as horror movies can come. Yet I'm happy to let you all know that Smile is not a bad horror movie at all. In fact, it's pretty freaking good. What makes Smile really click is Parker Finn, who is just going for broke in this. He's really playing with the form, suffocating the audience by bringing the horror unbearably close. His style and ability to turn a relatively paint-by-numbers cursed horror screenplay into a genuinely chilling time at the movies is very impressive. Smile also features strong performances from its cast, especially in how well they juggle complex themes such as mental health, which is very much the message embedded within the story. As I mentioned though, it is a very simplistic screenplay, meaning that it does fall into some of the traps and plot holes like others of the same subgenre. But what redeems Smile and makes it stand out is Parker Finn's ability to freak you the f*** out. Yes, there are jump scares, but there are also just as many nightmarish visuals that are far more effective. I'm going to give Smile a 7.5 out of 10. Anyway guys, those are my thoughts on all of those films. Let me know, have you had a chance to see any of these films yet? What ones did you like? What ones didn't you like? Let me know in the comments below. But that is all we have time for here today. Hopefully this video manages to make it past the copyright censors, but honestly, with YouTube's algorithm these days, who knows? But as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.